Behind me is a 1975 Ford F600 dump truck. It's been unemployed for a while, so today I'm going to see if I can get it back up and running and get back to work. Morning everybody, or afternoon, evening, whenever you happen to be watching this. A little bit of backstory on this project and kind of on me in general, I guess. I've been in the equipment industry doing field service work for coming up on 15 years. I've been in the automotive industry, equipment, just the repair in general, for going on 25 plus years now. My normal job, again, I'm just a field service mechanic, but when I got the idea to start this channel and start kind of documenting the things that I work on and what I do, I also had the idea of, in the evenings and weekends, doing some mobile repair work for, anybody that needs it reached out to me. I wasn't really set up for it yet. I'm not really currently. I don't have a service truck or anything right now, but when I started the channel and got my Facebook page set up, had a guy reach out to me on Facebook, Andrew. He has a small construction company here in Northeast Wyoming. It's called Kingdom Handyman LLC. I will post a link to his website on this video if I can figure out how to do that. If not, I'll put it on my Facebook page, Sage Rust Mechanic. You can go find me there. Anyhow, he reached out to me, said he had an old Ford truck that he bought last year. Wasn't up and running, couldn't put it on the road, put it to work. So he asked if I could come take a look at it. I did. He bought it back in October. It ran at that point, but he said that it doesn't run real great, doesn't really go down the road very well, and also that the brakes aren't working. So I came out, took a look at it, determined that really it just needs a tune-up and the carburetor rebuilt. And as far as the brakes go, wheel cylinder on this hub right here looks like it's been leaking. System's empty, so should be able to fix that pretty easy. And then this fuel tank here it's garbage, so it needs to be replaced as well. I threw Andrew a number. He said it sounded good, so here I am, trying to get an early start on this thing. The hub and the wheels and everything need to come off there so I can do that wheel cylinder. I'm going to start with that before it gets too warm. Today is supposed to be the hottest day of the year so far, so I'm really excited about that. Wind's blowing a little bit. Hopefully the audio's coming through okay. And like I said, I'm not really set up, so Old Blue, my 1985 GMC Jimmy, is currently my service truck. That will work just fine as well. Anyway, gonna get started here. Start with pulling this hub off, like I said, and see where the day ends up. Thanks for tuning in.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can move.
This truck has got what I've always heard referred to as a bud wheel nut system on them. There's an outer nut that holds this outer tire on, and then there's almost like a stud that screws onto the actual stud that holds the inner wheel on. So you have to get both of them off separately. Hopefully my little electric impact has enough to do it. I brought some bigger stuff, but I'd rather not break it out if I don't have to. I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. This piece threads onto the stud that's on the hub to hold that inner tire in, and then this piece threads onto that to hold the outer tire in place. Not that it's a bad system. I mean, a lot of these old trucks like this have it, semi-trucks have it. The only problem is that a lot of times these don't get taken off for a long time, and they don't get lubricated when they go on, and they rust up really bad, really solid, and they can be a nightmare to get apart sometimes. Luckily, this one worked pretty well. So now on these larger axles, these floating style axles, the drum for the brakes is mounted behind the hub, so the axle shaft has to come out, the hub has to come off, then you can get into the brakes on them. These axles have got little cone washers in here. They're a little beveled washer, kind of like a lock washer. Go in and hold that in place. I got to knock those loose before I can slide that axle out. So just going to gently tap around the outside. Should be able to wiggle them loose fairly easy, I hope. I just realized, as I'm getting ready to pull this axle shaft out of here, that I didn't bring my RTV gasket sealant with me for when I put this back together. So that's going to mean a trip down to the store before I'm done here. Now it's just as easy as pulling this shaft out, setting it aside while I take the rest of this hub apart. Now, of course, I've got every spindle nut socket except for the one that I need. So I'm going to try to tap on it with a pry bar and a hammer. If it's not really torqued down, sometimes that'll go ahead, let me spin it off. Then I can at least get the hub off. I've got to go back in to get RTV to seal this back up anyway, so I can just grab a socket when I go to do that, if I can go ahead and get this off. Either way, I can grab everything, but at least I can get this much done. So I'm just going to get on the edge of this nut here, make sure that I'm not going to hit any studs or anything, and I'm just going to tap it gently. I'm not going to go crazy. I don't want to get into this surface. I just want to see if I can knock this loose, because it doesn't seem like it's very tight. Oh, okay, so yeah, that came right loose. So that was definitely not properly torqued down. It looks like maybe somebody has been in here not too long ago. So you got this outer nut, a lock ring, and then the inner nut. The inner nut should come off with no problem. Lock ring. And there's that inner nut. Now I should be able just to slide the entire hub assembly off. Aha! Okay, so that gets us to our brakes. I just got to pull springs, get the shoes out of the way, and I am just going to go ahead and replace both cylinders while I'm in here. I can't tell which one was leaking. I can definitely tell that they were. So I'm just going to replace both of them. That way I don't have to worry about guessing which is which. Someone safety conscious will have noticed that I don't have a jack stand under this, and that's because up until this moment I kind of forgot. But now that I'm under the edge of it, I'm going to go do that. There we go. That's it's not great, but it's better. If my jack fails, it might not fall on top of me and kill me. Those bottom lines in this lower master cylinder almost ruined the entire day. Where the lines go into the fitting was corroded enough. They were stuck together pretty good. I thought I was going to break them getting them apart, but I managed to. I think I can get the cylinders out without removing all the hardware. I'm going to try anyway, and we'll see what happens there. So to be honest, I had a little bit of trouble finding these new ones. You know, 50-year-old Ford dump truck wheel cylinders should be pretty easy to find, right? But a tiny bit of hunting, and I found these on an online parts site called Parts Geek. They look like the right thing, so appears to be all good. Get these swapped out and put back together and start working on bleeding the brakes out. Hopefully it didn't look like any of the other cylinders were leaking, but I won't know till I can pressure this system up and get it all bled. Then we'll go from there and hope for the best. shade in a hurry here, which is not good. So not that there is any rule to using this RTV when making a gasket or when sealing up a gasket. But here's the rule when using this RTV. Less is more. Sometimes you'll see where somebody has just put like this huge bead of silicone and it squished out the edges of everything. Well, if it's squishing out the edges to the outside, it's squishing to the inside. And little pieces of it eventually break off. And then they end up in, engines, hub bearings, and that just, it causes premature failure on things. So just a little bit where things are going to meet up. It's just to help it seal. Well, this is about as good as I can get you in here, I think. I know the other day when I came and looked at this initially with Andrew, this was empty, but it hadn't drawn any moisture. There wasn't any rust or scaliness or anything inside of it, so that's good. I soaked this line down with some PB Blaster, let it set for a few minutes. I'm gonna open that up, and Jamie's here with me. She's gonna help me bleed the cylinder and then bleed the rest of the brakes, and hopefully there aren't any other cylinders leaking on it. That looks like a newer master cylinder, so they may have replaced that at some point. Probably when it didn't have brakes and they didn't realize that that rear cylinder was leaking. Oh, and this barely fits in here. We'll see how much of it I spill all over the place.
Do you have a funnel?
I do not have a funnel.
Smart.
Okay, that was almost a disaster as well. What I'm going to put my thumb over that fitting there while you go inside. When I tell you down, just nice and easy, steady pressure, just kind of like at, and all the way down kind of as far as the pedal will go.
Okay, which one's the brake?
The middle one.
Alright.
You couldn't hear her, but Jamie just asked which one is the brake pedal. There's 3 of them. She does not know how to drive a stick shift. Yep, go ahead and go down. Oh, that went right away. Uh-oh. That's gone forever. Okay, up. Gotta let me know when you're up. I can't see your foot. Huh? Okay. Down. One of the best ways to keep that from corroding is make sure there's no brake fluid in that fitting when you're done, because brake fluid draws moisture pretty bad. It's also not great for painted surfaces, so any overspray I'm going to get rid of. Huh?
Smells bad.
That's good stuff. Okay.
Right here. I got it.
Now I just gotta bleed the brakes at each wheel cylinder, and we should be done with the brakes anyway.
Okay. You want me to turn that off?
Yes, please. I'm not gonna drag it around with me to all the So I got the brakes bled. They bled out just fine, which is good. But the pedal travel just seemed weird, and they just didn't feel like they worked real great. So it's got brakes. They're not great, but they are bled out and they are functional. So I'm going to leave that as it is and go ahead and complete the rest of what I had planned on this today, which is a quick tune-up, new plugs, wires, cap, rotor, a rebuild on the carburetor. That's where I'm going to start because I know it's not pumping gas. New fuel pump to replace the one that they've bypassed. I'm assuming they did that because it didn't work. So a lot to try and finish up this afternoon. It's getting pretty late, but I want to get this done today. It'll start cooling off before too long, hopefully. So I'll start by pulling that carburetor off, throw a rebuild kit through it real quick, put it back on, and we'll see how it runs after that. I'm going to pull the carburetor and the fuel pump right now, rebuild that carburetor really quick, and throw the new fuel pump in. Then we'll do the rest of the tune-up, plugs, wires, cap, rotor, knock that all out real quick, and fire it up. Here's my carburetor kit that I got from Rock Auto. Instructions that, I don't know, I may need. As long as it's the right kit, this should be fairly straightforward. So I'm just going to start pulling the carb apart right here on the fender. Spill gas all over myself and go from there. Float appears to be okay. Fairly clean inside, so that's good. That accelerator pump really isn't working. So put a new one of those in there. Make sure the float's adjusted properly. And make sure everything's good and clean. That should be about all that it takes. Seems like something perhaps is not quite right here on the metering rod. Accelerator pump setup. Something there doesn't seem right, but okay, that I think is the problem. Somebody really misadjusted this metering rod. They had extra parts shoved in here. So now I've got to try to undo some of the damage that was done here. Okay, sometimes you end up just spending a lot of time undoing what somebody else has done. So now that should all function properly. So the rest of that carb looked pretty good. Hopefully the rest of this goes pretty quick. It is getting hot. There you go, little feller. That should take care of the carburetor. Let's get that fuel pump taken care of. So there is our fuel pump. I got a new one because they bypassed this one, so we're going to assume that it was bad. The drive lobe for it on the camshaft feels just fine. So we'll just grab the new one and slam it in there. call that good. So here is the new one. Now I've got to start kind of undoing the electric fuel pump that's mounted to the frame down here. Undo some lines, reroute some things. I'm just going to do that, get it hooked back up to the tank like it should be. Alright everybody, well, things don't always break your way. Things went really well with that hub this morning, getting it apart and back together, and the carburetor and everything went well, but having to run into town to find those tools and get that RTV took up quite a bit of time this morning. And I might as well come out when it's cool in the morning and do the rest of it. It's getting late. It's supper time. So I'm going to go have some supper, get a good night's sleep, get a shower. I'm filthy and disgusting, and I probably smell really bad. So I'm going to wrap it up tonight. I'll catch up with you guys in the morning, and we'll finish this thing up, fire it up. I want to get it on the road and see how it does. See if fixing that carburetor the right way made it run better, because, you know, it should just cruise down the road. So we'll finish up in the morning. I am thirsty, hungry, and I need a nap.